Brenda may be here, I've just not seen her.
Brenda's not here yet. Okay. All right, y'all. It is 7:00, so we're gonna kick it off. I'm gonna start by saying good evening. Thank y'all all for coming out. I'm glad that you're here. We do have a quorum of commissioners that are here, and so to make sure we follow all our public records laws, we're officially going to be in a meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order right now, so we're officially called to order. Thank y'all for coming to listening session number, I don't know what we're on. We've done a lot of them. And third for this year, but I think we're on like 11 total, or 12. So since we got a lot of new faces, and a lot of you have not been to one of the 10 listening sessions prior, before I jump into the slides, I'll kind of tell you what our goals typically are for a listening session and kind of how we roll through it, just so you know. So we started doing listening sessions a couple years ago. And I guess, by the way, I'm Mayor Will Lewis, if you don't know. I'm Will Lewis. I always forget to do that. We started doing listening sessions because we realized that there was a disconnect between the information people have and maybe the information as it actually was, and we wanted to do a better job of getting information out to the community. So we started doing listening sessions, and the first year we did 8 of them over 12 months, and we really focused on kind of wave top stuff. So we did general government. We did one, and some of you here have been to some of the other ones before, so you'll know what I'm talking about. We did a general government one. It was basically kind of how government is structured and what our budget looks like. We've done infrastructure ones where we've kind of hit wave tops on water and sewer. We've done sidewalks infrastructure. We did what we call public service, the public safety one, in which case we did police, fire, EMS, and our chief spoke about kind of how we do what we do and where that revenue comes from. We did a parks and rec. We did a cultural arts. And then this year what we've tried to do is then take the feedback we receive from citizens and then dial in to more specific items that citizens really want to talk about. And so this year we did a budget one last year. We did a budget one this year, a very extensive one right here in this room, where we cut into all of the budget and what the board's philosophy was before we went to pass the budget. Talked about water, sewer, stormwater, tax rate. We talked about all that, expenditures, services. And we've also done we did a joint one with the Sound Rivers folks about Slocum Creek, and they kind of gave their information. We talked about what we'd been doing and that sort of thing. So this one obviously is a response to the concerns by citizens about the utility bill. And so the way we typically do a listening session, our goals are to get you as much accurate information as we can. And then when you guys, after you've gotten the information, if you have questions further, we've got a mic set up, so at the end, you can come up, ask questions. We should be able to answer those. At most of them, we're able to answer them on the spot. If not, and it's something very specific to your situation, then we can get back to you on that. And so that's kind of how we run the listening session. We do run it live, and we've done that for all of them. So we are on a camera so that those folks that can't get here tonight, they may be at home, can access this feed. And then we're going to continue this one right through the questions in case somebody asks something at home that they want to know. A lot of times we'll stop before questions because these meetings can get long. But we've had them that go pretty late, and that's fine. So I'm going to run us through some slides. In the very beginning is kind of some basic information for context, and then we'll get into the meat of the utility bill specifically. So this is the org chart for the city of Havelock. Citizens of Havelock elect a mayor and commissioners. They hire a city manager. All of the departments and staff are run by the city manager. So the only person that our board hires and fires is the city manager. This is our mission and core values, and a lot of you have seen this. I'm not going to really dwell on it. It's on our website. It's been around now for several years, where we'll work together to enhance quality of life and deliver efficient, high-quality services while providing for growth and responsible development. And then, of course, we've got some principles of excellent service. I won't belabor all that. Quick stats. It's just for context so you know what size the city is. We have 134 employees at the city of Havelock. We have 47.4 miles of street that we're responsible for. We have 6.3 square miles if you're looking at, and by the way, I should also add, if anybody wants this PowerPoint presentation, this is public record. If you give us your email address, we can email you these same exact slides. It's all public record. I see people taking notes. That's the only reason I say that. You could take notes, or we could also email this to you at any time after today. 12 parks, 5,954 utility customers, and that's our water and sewer clients. We have 80 sewer main miles. Yes, that is correct. We have almost twice as much sewer main as we do road. Our population right now, well, our population as of 2020 was 16.6. And the reason I say as of 2020, they do a biennial census, and that's how they determine population across the entire country, and it drives a lot of things. Our population for the last 20 years has hovered around 20,000. And I won't get into details at this one, but with squadron changes on the base, our numbers are in a trough. They're now rising back up. And so at the census time, we were at 16.6. We expect that number to be back at 20,000 by about 2028, 2029. And in a trend, right now, North Carolina OMB does an annual population, and their number they reported to us as of July 1 was 17,479. So we're already back up 1,000 people from where we were. And then average home value in Havelock is $194,100. Our general tax rate is 71 cents. Our ad valorem tax base, which is the number that is applied to, is $992 million. So that basically is the amount of valued property in the entire city of Havelock. So that includes your house, Walmart, Food Lion, the mini storage buildings, all of that. All of that adds up. According to the county, we don't determine that number. The county determines that, $992 million. So the value of 1 penny on your tax rate, when we change a tax rate by 1 cent, so you go from 70 to 71, what that generates from the entire city is $98,000, $98,500. That's what you get for a penny. Our general fund is around $15.8 million. Our water fund is 3.3, sewer fund 5.7, solid waste is 1.3, stormwater is 525, our tourist and event center fund is 607,000, and E911 is 168. E911 is a very, very specific fund that we receive money from the state for. It can only be used for very specific things that have to do with dispatch and police and fire and EMS. These ones in the middle, water, sewer, and solid waste, and tourist and event center and stormwater fund, are what we call enterprise funds, and that means they're run like a business. So the general fund is based on tax dollars, sales tax, intergovernmental funds, rental rates. These, by statute, those 5 in the middle, have to be run as an enterprise fund. It means they support themselves. So a water rate, a sewer rate, a stormwater fee has to support the actual endeavor of the enterprise. We cannot raise taxes to cover a shortfall in water and not raise water rates. They have to be done independently as an enterprise fund. That's state mandate. That's a law. Or I take that back. You can do it, but the LGC comes down and penalizes you and takes over your budget. So it's heavily frowned upon and penalized. This one here is right before we jump into the utility bill. This is kind of a general outlook of how often we're putting information out in different format. And so if you don't know, we do have our meetings on the second and fourth Monday of every month. And the second Monday is a workshop. So we literally had one yesterday. It was about water and sewer rates, and we had professionals in there talking about rate structure and what can be done and what that looks like. We do that on the second Monday. Those are sit around a table workshop meetings. It's like where the sausage is made. The fourth Monday, and some of you in this room have attended that, is the formal meeting where the camera's on. If you go to our website right now, you can look at any one of our meetings from the last I guess we keep up with several years worth on our website. It goes on Cable 10 as well, but you can go to our website and access those fourth Monday meetings. That's where that's where we spend the money. That's where we would pass official ordinances. That's where we do official business. And that is also where our community public comments are. They're on that fourth Monday. So you can come to a meeting, you can stand, and some of you, I see faces in here that have literally been in meetings in the last month to talk about something that either concerns you or that you like. That's at the fourth Monday meeting. We say typically because there are months you don't have both, because like during budget, for example, you'll see in May, we do 3 budget workshops in a row, boom, boom, boom. So typically that's not your second Monday. That'll be 3 in a row during a week. But we publish that schedule every December for the next calendar year on our website. It goes on social media, and that, unless the board takes an action, that is the calendar. So if you go on our website and you look at that calendar, those are the days we're going to meet. We do an interactive listening session like this on the budget. We've done it for the last 2 years. I presume we'll continue to do that because they do have a lot of value. The folks that come tend to learn a lot about the budget and have a lot of good questions. These have been our interactive listening sessions, so 11 to date. That asterisk basically means as of this year, we've done 3. We do a mayor's minute. Some of y'all seen that. It's just how we get information out too. When we see a small issue that can be done in 3 or 4 minutes and kind of explain it really quick, we'll do a mayor's minute, which is a video that we put on Facebook, and people can access those for information. We've done it on all kinds of different topics. A lot of times things that we'll see trending in the community. We've also started a little podcast where we've been trying to hit some of the bigger issues and interview people. For example, the last one we did was with our police officer, who's our canine officer. We had the dog and him in there because a lot of people were asking, how does your canine program work, and how do you fund it? And so we had him on the podcast, and we talked for 20 minutes about the canine program and how we utilize that. All right, let's talk utility bill. That's what we're all here to talk about. So it is a utility bill, and not to belabor semantics, but water is just one small portion of the bill. And I know colloquially we've called it a water bill for decades, but it is truly a utility bill. There are multiple utilities on this one bill. And you've all seen this, either virtually or in person, of what your actual bill looks like. And to start, we're going to say there is a water bill that is a flat fee plus usage. We're going to dig into that. There's a sewer total listed separately. That's a flat fee and usage. We also have a trash fee, which is your solid waste pickup trash. We'll get into exactly what that is. And we have a stormwater fee, which is new this year, and we'll get into exactly what that is. One thing that you'll notice on the bill that I want to hit before I move off of it, there used to be capital reserves, and there was a capital reserve for water that had been there for, 8 years, 10 years, 9 years, something like that. And then there was a sewer one that was just added a couple of years ago. And really the feedback we received from the public was a lot of folks didn't like that there was the capital fee that was attached to it. The people are like, just put it in the structure. Like, why are we doing it separately? The board philosophically had done that years and years ago. A different board composed of different commissioners and mayor put together the plan because it was a way to put money directly into a savings account. It didn't go to operations. Everything on that reserve fee you used to pay went straight into a line item that was only for major repairs. Now we'll be doing that directly out of the fee structure because we eliminated it, which was kind of what the public was asking us to do. So when we rebuilt it, we eliminated it. All right. This is going to be a whole lot of numbers, but we do have some examples, and we picked them specifically based on usage. Each water and sewer number that you see on your bill is made up of both a flat rate and a usage rate. They have a flat rate because that is symbolic of you have water and sewer at your house. If you don't use a single drop because you were gone for the month, we still have to provide a sewer plant, a water plant, lift stations, pumps. It's the cost of doing business. So the flat fee is what everybody pays for water and sewer every single month, period. The usage is based on gallons consumed, and you add them together. So here's our rate structure over here. For water usage, we'll do water first. If you use under 3,000 gallons, you pay $3.55 for 1,000 gallons of water. 3,001 to 6,000, you pay $4 for 1,000 gallons. 6 to 1,001 to 9,000, $454, and then $498 for over 9,000. This first line of 1 to 3,000 should be what your bill looks like if it's just you and your house or just you and a spouse or one other person. You're probably using less than 3,000 gallons. That is typical. If you have a family, let's say of 4 like my house, then you're probably in this 3,000 to 6,000. Our average water bill customer is a 5,000 gallon bill. That is a family. My bill hovers between 5,000 and 6,000, and I have 4 people in my house. Sewer, the multiplier is different. Sewer is a lot more expensive to process. And so 1,000 to 3,000 is 90. I don't need to read all this to y'all, unless in the back you can't read it. But 1 to 3,000 gallons, you pay $9.81 per thousand. 3 to 6, $10.74. 6 to 9, $11.86. 9 to 12, $12.90. You do not have a sewer meter, right? And that is a question I get asked a lot, so I'm just going to address that. You don't have a sewer meter. Sewer is calculated by math based on what goes through your water meter. Sewer meters are incredibly expensive. If you've ever talked to anybody who lived in James City on a grinder system, pumping sewer is not easy. Just ask any of the guys that work on our lift station regularly. And so there is no such thing as a sewer meter that we utilize. So it's all math off water, which is typical of most municipal systems. So I picked 2,000 gallons. We did this for the first calculation because, and we just got this data actually yesterday shown to us by third-party people that from the UNC University that have nothing to do with us, that backed up that this 2,000 is about where all of our clients that seem to be in that household of 2 people in your house, this is about what it looks like. So you're going to pay the flat rate. And you multiply your 2,000 gallons by 0.0035 because it's $3.55 per 1,000 gallons. You add those together and you pay $34.19 for water. Sewer, it's the exact same style of calculation to $73.30. We also did 5,000 because if any of you in here have a family, this is where your bill probably is. And for water, for the first 3,000, you pay the 3,000 amount. It's not like because you went over 5,000 or 3,000 gallons, we do it all at $4.04, right? So the first 3,000 are calculated this way. The next 2,000 are calculated at the little bit higher rate. You add all those together, and it's $45.82. So if we give 5,000 gallons of water to your house, you pay $45.82. Sewer, same type of calculation. We do it the same way. We use the scale you actually are in, right? We don't jump to the highest scale, and that would be $104. Flat fees are based on the residential meter size. We use numbers that are your house, which is that 3/4, 5/8 size tap. There's a different flat rate if you have a 2-inch line, for example. So say you're Walmart or you're a restaurant or you're anybody commercial. They're paying a higher flat rate because we have a higher responsibility in providing that line and water and sewer to them. All right. So that's the water and sewer piece on how we calculate it. That's how we calculate your water and your sewer at every single house. This is your trash fee, your solid waste, as we call it, our solid waste account. If you're residential, which all of you in here are, but you may have a business too, so we're going to hit that, you pay $23.11 a month. For $23.11, you get the blue container picked up 4 times a month. You put whatever you want into it. You fill it up. They pick it up. You can have a moderate number of times a year where your container's not big enough, like Christmas, and you put a couple of bags next to it. They're obligated to pick that up. We negotiate that in our contract. If you do it every month, they're going to tell us, and we say, hey, you probably need a second trash can. But you do it 2 times a year, they just get it, right? That's negotiated in our contract. You get that 4 times a month. And we pick up your green waste, so your leaf piles, your grass clippings. We pick up your limbs, 48 inches, 5 inches in diameter, 128 cubic feet. That's 4 foot by 8 foot by 4 foot. So if you imagine the whole back of your pickup truck, we will pick that up every single week on your pickup day. That's all included in the $23. We also do white goods and brown goods pickup. You put a refrigerator out there, you put a couch out there, you put a mattress out there, you put an old end table, we pick that up as well. All for $23.11. That's the other line item on your bill. I just had to replace my washer and dryer. Lowe's offered to haul them away from me. If anybody's had to do it recently, and you know, they offered to haul them away from me at $50 each. Recycling, this is just on here as a reminder. The city of Havelock does not do your recycling. That is Craven County. You don't pay for that on your utility bill. You pay for that on your tax bill. If you rent, you don't see that bill. It's getting paid by the owner of the property. Oh, and I'll back up to commercial for a second. Our commercial businesses have the opportunity to use your solid waste system, which is one way that we negotiated a very reasonable price every time we negotiate it. So if you have the type of business that does not need a 4-yard or an 8-yard dumpster, but you're having to pay this exorbitant amount for that, we negotiated that they can use our contract through the city of Havelock. They only pay $28.49 a month, and they can have a blue container. If one's not enough, they can get two, and it's 2 times $28.49. If any of you have ever had to rent a dumpster, that is way cheaper than a dumpster and a benefit to our commercial, and it helps keep our residential numbers down. Every commercial business that participates, when you increase the number of usage, it lowers our total cost in the contract. All right. Stormwater. So this is new, and I'm going to give you a few details about it. We've talked about it for years, and we've done a couple listening sessions where we went over stormwater. The state of North Carolina has us designated as a CAMA county, Coastal Area Management Act, and that means that we're one of 20 counties that is full of water. Right? There's 20 of us out of the 100 in North Carolina. As a result, we have different standards for how we have to manage stormwater. I will be clear and say the state of North Carolina does not mandate that we have to have a stormwater fee. They don't mandate that. But they do have a higher level of standard for what we have to perform, and as long as we're in good standing, we're not taken over and mandated to do something different. In the past, we've done stormwater with the tax rate. And so we all pay the same penny in tax, the same 71 cent today or whatever it was when we were doing it via tax rate. And that we would take a certain part of that and go towards storm. I would say it was a reactive way to do it. It was 90% reactive, 10% proactive. Maybe some years it was 80% reactive, 20% proactive, right? But we didn't have a program. We had a plan. The stormwater fee system takes this money and puts it directly into a line item that is only for stormwater. It operates as an enterprise fund. That's the only thing it's used for. It allows us to have a stormwater manager, which we should be able to have on board. Well, the position starts January 1. The board funded it half a year instead of a whole year to reduce some of the expense. So they would start January 1. And then we'll have an actual program. Right now, we've just finished the survey and analysis of our drainage system, and they're putting together a report right now that'll be used to drive the program. That'll plan for out year. So instead of being, hey, let us know when your ditch floods and we'll come check it out, we're going to have a plan where we're actively going throughout the city and managing the stormwater system. And this $4, the board chose to do the $4. And let's be clear, they could have just put it in the tax rate. The reason they did it at $4 is because, and these are the things that it does, and I just covered that: planning, engineering, construction, maintenance, inspections. It includes street sweeping, which is a part of stormwater maintenance. That is not about appearance. That is about getting the debris out of our curb and gutter system. So based on the amount of impervious surface areas, how we decide what the fee is. So residential is $4 a month. It doesn't matter what house you have in Havelock, where every residential unit is paying $4 a month. And that goes straight into the stormwater fee. Every commercial non-residential property is $4 for every 2,300 square feet. We call that an ERU, a residential unit. So and I say that because the reason the board chose to do this instead of taxes is to generate the same amount of money via taxes. It would have required a larger tax increase to you as a residence than it does to you stormwater, because Walmart, just to use them as a massive example, their entire roof structure, their paving, and everything counts as impervious. It's $4 times every 2,300 square feet of impervious that they have. So your Walmart, your Food Lions, your storage units, they are creating way more runoff into our system than your house is. Using a stormwater fee system allows them to pay the bulk of the fee instead of you. You pay $48 a year. They're paying some of them to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars a year into that program. If we did it via taxes, yes, they would still pay more because their building's worth more, but the percentage is much, much closer as to what they pay versus what you pay. So the board chose the stormwater fee because they thought it was more fair to the actual citizens than doing it through taxes. And we can really get in the weeds on stormwater, and I'll be happy to if anybody wants to, but I'm going to stop there at the big picture. We can get into how we figured out what an ERU was and what that math is if you really want to when we get to questions. This is a comparison, and I would first say as a preface, there is no apples to apples comparison on water rates, sewer rates, utility bills, trash, because everybody does it differently, right? But we tried to look at our surrounding areas and we got direct information from them on what a bill would be. The only thing I would say is this is a 6,000 gallon, which probably there's very, very minimum people in here that are using 6,000 gallons. Unless you have a really large family, you might be using 6. But unless you have a problem, a big family, 7 people, yeah, you're using more than 6,000 gallons. The rest of you probably, I mean, my rule of thumb is if you have a person in the house, it's 1,000 gallons, right? That's your rule of thumb, and there's a minimum. If you're one person by yourself, you're going to use 2,000. But if you got 4 people, you're probably using 4,000 gallons. If you got 3, you're probably using 3,000. That's pretty close. So the reason we use 6 is because some of our comparison folks use 6. We usually use 5 because that's the average, but we went ahead and did 6. If you look at water flat fee, and this is why it's never apples to apples. Every municipality or service provider gets to decide what their flat fee is and what their per usage is. And they can make their flat fee really high and make their usage really low. They can make their flat fee really low and make their usage really high and get it on that end. And it's really a preference of the board that's making the decision. If you look up here at Moorhead, for example, their flat fee is $18.43. Newport's flat fee is $25.19. New Bern's in-city is $23.29. New Bern out-of-city is $44.91. Ours is $27.09. So really we fall right in the middle of the pack. And again, apples and oranges, like how do you equate that anomaly? So this is why New Bern isn't even a fantastic example. They have a lot of out-of-city. So we have out-of-city. We have like 60. No, we don't have that many. We have like 4 now. We have like 60 that get sewer that don't get water, 69-ish, 60-something. But we have hardly no out-of-city, right? New Bern has a lot of out-of-city limits water clients. So the reason it's not apples to oranges is because they can say, well, we don't need to raise the number over 23.29 because we can hit all of our out-of-town people for $44.91 and subsidize that number. I also would add, not picking on New Bern at all, but they also have an electric city, and general statutes allow them to charge power customers more money and use that money within their water and sewer rates. So they can artificially deflate their numbers by charging electric higher, which, by the way, a lot of their electricity is not in New Bern, including an entire portion of the city of Havelock right here behind us, right? So that's why apples and oranges, it's really kind of apples and oranges. It's never exactly the same, but I think it does give a context, right? And then if you go flat fee plus usage, ours goes to 49. That's if you use your gallons. New Bern's goes to 81.27. So their flat rate is a little bit low here, but they're obviously hitting them hard on usage. Newport charges $25 for their flat rate, but when they do 6,000 gallons of usage, they're at $60.71. We're still at $49.86 for the same amount of water. Now, and you might say, where did we get these numbers from? We got them from Newport. Like, we got them from Moorhead. We didn't Google it. We didn't ask somebody who lives in Newport to show us their bill and then assume that that was an average bill. We told Newport what we wanted for parameters, and they said, this is what our bill calculates as. So that's as honest and real of a number as you can get. Sewer flat, same thing. You'll see ours is $53.68. There are some lower ones, definitely. Come over here to flat fee plus usage, and you'll see 65. There's Newport's jumps very aggressively from 26 to 140. Ours goes from 53 to 115, still lower. In-city is pretty low for New Bern. The other reason I would say, not picking on New Bern again, but New Bern has if you count in-city and out-of-city, they probably have 65 or 70,000 people in their system. That's different than 5,900, right, to spread your cost out. Monthly trash, and this also, again, not necessarily apples to apples because we don't know what they're doing for that in all cases. Sometimes that's just curbside pickup. It doesn't include brown goods, white goods, leaf. Ours is $23.11 and we do everything. Moorhead's $24.50, Newport's $20.93, New Bern in and out is $19.35. They're $4 less than us. They also have a whole lot bigger, they have a whole lot more people paying the bill. So that doesn't surprise me at all. So if we get over here to the total, if you're in Newport, your bill's $222 for 6,000 gallons. Ours is $188. New Bern out of city is $202. New Bern in city is $111. Moorhead City, $145. And if you look at that 6,000 gallons we put down here, basically, what is that out of that whole 188? 49.86, 115 sewer, 23 trash, $4 stormwater. The reason we don't have a stormwater calculation on here is because everybody doesn't do stormwater. Or I should say everybody that does it different. So we do just a stormwater fee. Moorhead has a stormwater fee that they charge individually per unit. Theirs is $2 and change, almost $3. New Bern used to do a stormwater fee. Their fee was in excess of $2 12 years ago. Then they decided they didn't like the stormwater system. They went back to putting it in their tax rate. They now allocate tax rate to it instead of using the stormwater fee. So that's why that's not on there as a comparison, because everybody chooses to do it different. And by the way, we were the last ones in the area to go to stormwater fees. We'd been subsidizing it ourselves for a long time. Everybody around us went to stormwater fees literally over a decade ago. And we had held out as long as we could. Okay. AMI. I'm going to cover this real quick because some of you do have questions about your individual bill, and this will explain how we have more data now. And some of you have heard about AMI, the automated metering infrastructure. And what that is we, up until this current year, last year, we were still reading your meter by, you've seen us in your neighborhood, walk around, take the cover off. We're reading thousands of meters a day. And then they have a handheld, and they punch the number of gallons in, and it got sent back to the system, and we billed you via that. We had massive amounts of errors, as you can imagine. You tell two guys to go out and read 6,000 meters in 3 days, and they're hustling through neighborhoods. It's easy to hit a 9 instead of a 6. And if you hit a 9 instead of 6, that's like a 3, depending on where it is, 30,000 gallon change in your total number and can make your bill crazy. Some of you in this room have probably had what was called a reread, where your number was insane. We went back out, said, oh yeah, somebody hit the wrong number. We reread it. We used to have out of 6,000 or less, a little less than 6,000, we'd have hundreds of those every month. AMI uses radio signals to read your meter and provide that data directly to our system, so it is real-time data, and it is human error proof at least. And so our system gets that number and then calculates your usage. And there are a couple of benefits that I think there are benefits that benefit the city of Havelock that are tangible, and there's some that are intangible. Tangible, a lot of us had water meters that were really old. Water meters have a life of 7 years, 8 years. Is that about right, Chris? 7, 8 years of life on your water meter. Water meters don't speed up, they only slow down, right? So if you have a water meter that was 9, 10, some 12 and 15 years old, you had what we have bypass water going through your meter that you were not paying for. It was just free to your house. I've had a lot of people come to me, and some of you in this room, maybe you got the new AMI meter, and all of a sudden, instead of using 3,000 gallons, you're using 3,400 a month. You're like, I haven't changed anything. Yeah, your meter was probably a decade old, and now it's reading correctly, and you're using 3,400 gallons. And how do we know that? Every time we have an anomaly that we can't figure out, the meter gets sent off to a lab. Third-party lab takes the meter, puts it in their system, they test the meter, they give us back the results. We've been doing that for years. And if a meter's wrong, we change your meter. Some of you in this room have probably had that happen to you, where your meter was a little faulty. We ended up changing it after a couple of months, and we figured out what was going on. That doesn't happen with AMI anymore. Intangible results is real-time data. And I think I look at a water bill, somebody in the city of those 6,000's water bill every 2 weeks. I know today we were helping a citizen out with data for their water bill, because something on it didn't make sense, or maybe their usage didn't make sense, and they read a month in arrears, right? You're reading for last month when you get your bill now. So One of them is the improved customer service. And the reality of that is the data we can provide you, and I'm about to show you some of that, is incredible. And so today, if you are right now sitting here and you had a leak at your house, you left and went out of town for 2 days, and that meter just runs and runs and runs, we'll get a message on our system now. And it says, you have an anomaly usage at this address. And then they pull it up, and they say, wow, this is way too much water in this 12-hour period. And then they will call you, or if necessary, send one of our daily guys out to your address and tell you you've got a water problem. How that worked before AMI was your water ran for the week you were out of town, and you came back to 28,000-gallon water bill because we didn't know, and you didn't know, and nobody knew. Now we have that data. And that might sound hyperbolic, but I have seen a lot of water bills where people went out of town and they had 60 and 80,000 gallons of water for the week they were out of town. And we are only allowed by law to credit the sewer. You got the water. You didn't get it the way you wanted to, but the law says you got the water. We can't reduce your water. We can reduce your sewer, say it didn't go in our sewer system, we can adjust that, but you're still paying a lot of money for the water. This allows us to bypass that. If you want to know if it works, there are a lot of examples where that's already worked. One of them is literally my neighbor across the street from me. They got a ping, and one of the daily guys went out and checked their meter and knocked on their door and told them, hey, we've had an anomaly on your meter for the last 2 days. We think you've got a leak in your wall. They did have a leak in the wall. And they were able to solve the problem in a matter of days instead of it turning into a massive problem for everybody. That is a much better level of service. How did we pay for that? That's been a question. The board committed to do AMI and locked in a contract, 4 years ago, and 21. Well, that was the pilot, but we committed the year before that, so 2020. We committed to the pilot. Yes, sir. So we don't have a federal mandate to go to AMI. We do not have that federal mandate on us. There's no mandate to go to AMI for us. We did use federal funding to pay for it, and that's where I was going to go next, which was the board committed to fund AMI. We locked a contract in at 2020 rates, and the 2020 rates, no matter what happened to inflation, we were going to pay the same amount for the system. So that was a really good move by the board because when inflation hit, all the meters and stuff went through the roof, but we had our prices locked in. Then the federal government provided ARPA funds, and that's probably what you're alluding to. The ARPA funds came out as part of a federal mandate we got, or a federal law that did create ARPA, and we were the benefactor of just over $6 million of that. There were laws and rules about how you had to use that money. You could use it for some things that were more personnel related and whatnot. We chose to use it only to enhance our infrastructure. It was supposed to be for water, sewer, drainage, resiliency infrastructure, as that's what the ARPA funds were for. That's what we used all of ours for. We used $1 million of that to finish the AMI system. We used federal dollars to pay for the rest of the AMI system instead of your water and sewer dollars. We used the federal dollars. And that completed the AMI system. It took them a little longer to complete. The pilot started in 21. It took them a lot longer to complete because just like everything else, they couldn't get the parts for the meters. It took them a couple years to get it all in. They just finished everything up, a couple months ago. Now everyone's officially AMI. So your meter now, if you go out and look at it, doesn't look like the old box. It still has a top, but they cut a hole in it, and there's a little black dome that sits on that, and that is the radio transmitter that's giving us the data about your meter. Now, here is where it is very beneficial for us. Let's say you come in. I know you can't read all these numbers, so I'll kind of, it's hard to get all this on a slide that people can read from the back. This is an AMI report. And so if you come in and you're like, I don't understand. You're telling me I use 4,000 gallons. I know I don't use 4,000 gallons. All I do is wash dishes, one load of laundry, and I take a shower once a week. I know I don't use that kind of water. We can literally pull this up and show you what time of day you used water. It literally showed, so these are times and days at the bottom and gallons. This is number of gallons that you see the vertical lines. That's number of gallons. So in that time period right there, that's probably 10 gallons on this low number. So this is like you washed your hands. This is like you ran your dishwasher, right? And so when you tell us we're at work, this was literally a scenario we've been through this week. We go to work from 9 to 4. There's no way we're using that much water. We only do stuff after hours. If we pull your report and it literally shows no water usage from like 8:30 to 4:30, you're absolutely right. But then we show you Saturday and Sunday, and you're like, look at all the water you used in 2 days. Washing dishes, washing your car, whatever you're doing. And we can show you that real-time data. Here's where your water is. Now, when you're looking at a regular one, sometimes that doesn't make you feel good. You're like, dang it, I thought I used less water. No, you really use this much water, right? It's kind of like I use the analogy. If I ask every one of you what you spend on groceries, your number's wrong. We all going to underguess, right? I spend $300 on groceries. It's probably more like $400 today, right? And so when people say, I only use 3,000 gallons, well, this is real-time data that shows, no, actually, every day you're using this many gallons. And actually, it can be beneficial because you can say, oh, I see the habit I have now where I'm burning up this. If I want to conserve water, I know what I'm doing at 7 o'clock, and that's where I'm using my most water. I can change that habit, right? But here's the one where it's really beneficial because these help more. This is what it looks like when there's a problem. And if this happens, so concerning usage, constant use for over a 24-hour period, the office immediately reaches out to the customer. And this is a little bit more data down here with an actual spike line instead of the bars. So our folks can see right here on 5/12/2024, you had a continuous water runnage at this address for an entire 24-hour period. And it was a high usage, 100 gallons. So this data hits them and they say, we need to let this customer know they might have a problem. Maybe you just left your hose bib on, but maybe you had a water break under your house. Maybe your neighbor, real scenario, I'm telling you, I don't have to make stuff up. Maybe when you go to work, your neighbor who doesn't have water right now because they didn't pay their bill, hooks a hose bib to your hose and uses a crap ton of your water while you're at work all day and then unhooks from it at night. That's a real scenario. I did not make that up. This will tell you that. If you're like, I'm not home at 10 o'clock, why am I using 3,000 gallons of water, right? That's what AMI does that we did not have before we started AMI. So this is a data point for citizens. Yes, not in real time because we don't have the kind of servers and computers that would allow you to just go in and look at that, and I don't think our software that provides it would do that, but if you were to say to me, because we do this all the time, I think I have a water issue, yes, we will give you all that information. We emailed it to a lady this morning to show her what her usage was for the last month. And we can do that for everybody in this room. And you can do it, you can email us and just say, I'm having a problem with my water bill. You email our water department. They will get you that information. Or you can say, I want to sit down with somebody and actually talk about what the heck's going on with my bill. We do that all the time. I will do it with you if you want to. I will bring the experts in the room if you want to hear from the customer service folks, or you want to hear from the finance director, you want to hear from the city manager, and they can explain it to you. But we do that all the time. So it is available to you, but you can't just go on the website and pull it up. One day, maybe. Yes, sir. Okay, so the question, I'm going to repeat his question. So he's asking, does it read it in round numbers or to the actual gallon? We read to the actual gallon, right? I got you. I'll repeat it. Okay. So when the meter actually reads actual gallons, it's going to show on this report as a rounded to a 10. So if you use 7 gallons, it's going to show 10 gallons on the meter. I mean, on the meter's going to show 7. This is going to show 10 for the report. It rounds up to the nearest 10. Your bill is by the exact gallon. We bill you by the gallon, by hundreds. I mean, so, and yeah, we probably should do these questions at the mic just so everybody can hear. But he said, so on your bill, what is that? We round to the 100 gallons on the actual bill. If you use 982 gallons, that's going to be 1,000 gallons, right? Yes. Yeah. Of course we only do. Of course. All right. Questions, comments, feedback. This is a reminder of how you can get in touch with us. And I would emphasize that some of these are better than others. You can go to our website and get all the information you want. right? And a lot of our budget's on the website. If you want to see what our budget is, it's on there. Our fee schedule. You want to know what it costs to rent a picnic shelter, whatever. It's all on the website. Our entire budget, what we spend every dime on. You want to know what I get paid, you do not have to speculate on Facebook Marketplace. You can ask me, or you can go to the website and it is right there, right? Facebook, we do put information on Facebook. We do use Instagram. We have board meetings, like I said at the beginning, that start at 1900, 7 p.m. On the second Monday of the month, it's a workshop. That is where the sausage gets made. If you'd been there last night, you would have heard a whole lot of information way in the weeds about rate structure, what other municipalities do, what other regions do, what other states do, what they're doing to help other people. Televised meeting is on the 4th. BOC, that's the BOC meeting where you can't come up and do public comments. I have standard offers hours on Monday from 3 to 5 where you can just drop in. I do recommend that sometimes they get super busy, so it's better if you call in advance or you may have to wait a little bit. This Monday, yesterday, for example, I had meetings from 3 all the way until 5, the entire 2 hours. On board meeting nights, they go till 7 o'clock. If you want to meet at 6 because you work till 5, if you call up and let them know, I'm in the building all the way till 7, I'll meet with you at 6. If that doesn't work for you and you call City Hall and you say, I want to meet with the mayor, but I'm only off on Thursdays, then I will come meet with you on Thursdays, right? So I've been very accommodating to meet with anybody on the schedule they need. This is just a window. And I say that to say, don't think this is the only time you can come get your question answered, whether it's about water, sewer, whatever you want to know about. You could do it anytime, but this is just locked in. That's going to happen every Monday. But again, used to, people just dropped in and it was okay. It's gotten a little more popular over the last few years. So I would recommend you call just to see what it looks like. Now, I want to answer questions for you guys. And because we're videoing, we do have the mic hit up because some of you folks that have been in digital land and watched some of our stuff before have said that you can't hear the question. And it's not, I do repeat it, but that's not the same thing. So tonight we have a mic up here. And if you have a question, I'd love for you to come up, ask the question. If we can give the answer right now, absolutely we will. Yes, sir. Come on up.
If perhaps we're just using the exact same amount of water for 2 months on oddball days. I'm not going to complain about the trash pickup, although it would be nice if they came on the day they're scheduled to come. I am going to complain about the sewer. We live on Slocum Creek. I see absolutely no reason, and this is a little bit of sarcasm here, I see no reason to be connected up to the sewer system. It's going to end up in Slocum Creek anyway. Let me just run my pipe down there. I'm sorry, that was a little bit of sarcasm, but we need to do better on that creek. We can smell the sewer in that creek from our backyard. And we live right across the street from the VFW. And we got people out there in boats, we got people out there in kayaks. We need to do better on our sewer system. Whatever it takes, we need to do better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll address those two real quick. So we would love it if the trucks could always be there the day that they're supposed to be there. But there are challenges with equipment. Sometimes equipment breaks. We also have staffing, and just FYI, we use inmates to cut grass. And if you don't know, we use an inmate crew to cut grass. If, like, we had a situation, just to give you an example of how we do get behind on green waste or brown waste pickup by a day or two. If all the equipment's working and we just had a situation where they had some sort of virus running through the prison system in Newport and they did not allow inmates out to come work for us for a period of time. When that happens, you're now missing 5 or 6 people, 7, 8 people, I don't know how many we have cutting grass now that are inmates. It depends on the day sometimes. You now don't have them to cut grass, which means all the guys in public works that are driving the trucks, picking up your green waste and brown waste, have got to go get on mowers in order to keep the grass cut. This time of year, that's a real concern, right? Because we have to stay on schedule. They literally cut grass 5 days a week for 7, 8 months. So that'll put us behind sometimes. Instead of being there on Monday, we might have to get there on Tuesday. If we know that in advance because we have a truck down, we do usually put that on Facebook. So let's say we know a truck is down, we send it off, and we know we're going to be behind for a week. We do put that on Facebook to let you know, hey, be patient, we might be down till our truck is back. Those are the reasons we're usually behind. We do that part in-house. Now, if you're talking about your blue can getting picked up on time, the only control we have is we have a contract on the days it's supposed to get picked up. If they have a truck go down or they have employees not in, we're kind of at their mercy, and they're going to get there when they get there. I know everybody in this room has had their blue can picked up 2 days after it was supposed to, especially around a holiday sometimes. Patrick, our public works director, does get on them about that, just like he gets on them when you find your trash can in the ditch instead of on the side of the road when they come through. I'm sure some of you have that problem. I do periodically. He stays on top of them about that. They are a third-party vendor, so we can only do what we can do. As far as sewage in Slocum Creek, we did a whole listening session on that, and so I won't get deep into the depths of that. But I will say, in the last, I don't know, 8 years or so, we have spent well in excess of $20-30 million working on our sewer system, right? And nobody on our board of commissioners or on staff wants to be spilling sewer on any given day at all, right? It's not like we wake up and we're like, man, I hope something spills today, right? The fact is, y'all are all sleeping in a rainstorm, and I haven't slept in one in 4 years because I don't know what's going to happen, and it does keep me up at night. We've spent tens and tens of millions of dollars. That big project going on by Dick Parker Ford, I still call that because I grew up here. Riverside Ford, that project is a $6 million line replacement project that we're doing right now to solve a lot of the issues in our sewer system. It's a part of the program we're in with the state to make sure that we can reduce how much we spill, right? Sometimes spills are within our control. I agree with that. Where maybe, you know, a bypass pump failed, that was our bypass pump, and we didn't get there quick enough to not have a spill. Sometimes that happens. Some spills are completely out of our control, right? Some of them are, we just had the contractor spill. It wasn't us. We have to take responsibility because it's our system. The last spill you saw was not the city of Havelock. It was a bypass pump being used by the contractor doing the work at Riverside Ford that broke. Their alarm didn't go off. Their duty guy didn't see it. He didn't come out. We had to go help get it cleaned up, and we have to take the rap for the spill even though it wasn't us that spilled it because it's our system and they're our contractor, right? Is that within our control? I mean, very marginally. The Slocum Creek issue too, all of our lines are on Slocum Creek. We camera regularly. We inspect them visually regularly. We are not spilling anywhere around the creek, right? Our last spill that affected the creek was the one you all remember from, man, I don't know, 6, 7, it's been a while, months ago, where we had the problem at the actual plant, and it was a big overflow where a pump didn't do what it was supposed to do. Our system overflowed into that marsh area, and it cost us, we spent $500,000 to clean it up. We literally paid people to go out with nets and scoop up every turd, excuse my language. That's legit. That's not hyperbolic. That's how we handled it. It cost us $500,000 to do that, right? That was the last spill that we had that was actually near the creek, and that's how we managed cleaning it up. When we had our listening session here and we had the folks from Sound Rivers here, they've been doing this sampling in Slocum Creek. And where the human sewage appears to be in it is further upstream, where we don't even have lines or a sewage system, right? Those are all septic systems that are up in that Wolf Pit branch and all that. That's where they're finding the concentration washing down the stream. So all of that is not us. There are failing septic systems there which are not in our jurisdiction. And I know Sound Rivers is working with the county because that's county health department and what that means for us. That's not a deflection. We take full responsibility for our sewer system. We have spent a crap ton of your money to do it. And while it's fun to be tongue-in-cheek, the reality is spending all that money to fix a sewer system costs a lot of freaking money. You can't say, I don't want to pay a sewer rate, but I want my lines to be fixed, right? And so the way we got there, obviously, is 50 years of deferment, 60 years of not doing the maintenance on the line. Those 80-some miles of lines are buried underground. Nobody's looking at them. It's easy for boards, and I'm not picking on past boards or my current board. It's easy for a board of commissioners to be like, we'll defer that. We're not going to raise rates this year. We're going to kick that can down the road. Nobody can see it anyway. Now we literally have lines in the ground that are 50 years old and are failing. We don't even know where they're failing yet until a sinkhole pops up, right? So that's the situation that we're in. All right, next question. What else I got? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hi, my name's Kathy Blythe. I live in South Forest. I have two things. First, the $4, I'm willing to pay that. My house flooded during Florence. I had about this much water in my home here in Havelock. So if that's going to help prevent that in the future for families, I'll pay that $4 any day. Second, I know you took out those fees because people didn't want them in their bills. Well, I think there's a lot of people here that would like to see those fees listed and itemized so that they won't be upset when they see their bill, because it took me literally days to figure out, going on the website, that I was missing something somewhere when I was calculating my bill. It's because those fees got transferred and are now listed collectively instead of itemized on the bill. So I think that was the biggest mistake with people's bills and them not understanding it. My next question is about the software that you guys are using. You said you locked in the rate for 2020, but we all know technology. Is that software going to be usable like in the next 5 years? Are we going to have to keep paying for an upgrade to the software? Because I did research on the AMI meters, and quote unquote, they're good for 20 years with the lithium batteries in them. So I'm just curious, is our software going to keep up with our longevity of those meters?
Sure. So I might have been a little bit unclear there. The price we locked in 2020 was for the meter and the AMI radio receiver piece that's in the ground. So we've kind of exhausted that locked in now that they're all put in the ground. We bought them all at 2020 rates. The software we use to actually do everything, they'll be updating that every 3 or 4 years. And we pay annually. It's a part of our total package system. We have a package from a company called Tyler. It has Munis and a couple other things in it that we use throughout the city. We are updating that constantly. As far as our meters, no, we will be replacing them at some point in the future. That'll be a future board's decision. You know, at the 7-8 year mark, you kind of do the analysis of how much water do you think you're losing and what does it cost to replace the meters. I doubt they will last 20 years. That'd be freaking awesome. I doubt it. The regular life of a water meter that we've had before is around that 7-8 year, really, before you start losing. And these, I imagine the mechanical part will be the same. The radio part, though, might last longer because they are separate components, which, just a reminder, don't hit the dome part with your lawnmower. It's freaking expensive. And because it is separate, your water meter can work if that does not work. And the stormwater fee, yes, it is going to make a better system. And you might say, well, sure, government's always going to say that. And I wouldn't disagree with your statement if you said that, right? But in fact, we have been doing a better job already of understanding the stormwater system. And any of you that flooded in Florence or got water so close to your house that it freaked you out, the work that we have done since 2018, if you live in any of those neighborhoods and you don't see an improvement, I'd love to know. Because we have done extensive work. And in this last little rain event we had, where our folks were out there in that rain event watching how the water was moving and seeing if the work we were doing was beneficial. And in almost all cases, we were moving water a lot better than we were. But on the east end of town, just a reminder, we are all open ditch. I live on the east end of town. I know I see a lot of faces in here that live on the east end of town. We have open ditches, not curb and gutter like the west end of town. That ditch has a purpose beyond just moving water. It also holds water. So when you say, oh, my ditch isn't draining fast enough, if it holds the water long enough for it to drain off when it stops raining, then the ditch did its job. Your ditch should not be empty. A 5-gallon bucket holds 5 gallons of water, right? And so the ditch holds the water in anticipation of it leaving. The $4 is going to build a better system. And then as we execute that system, it'll get even better than we are today, if that answers the question. What else? Come on up, George. No, other George, not that George. I should have used the last name, I guess. George Liner, yes, sir.
There's more than one.
Yeah.
He's the pretty one. I'm the older one. Old George, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank you for it, but I'm really confused on this. I mean, the lady brought up a good point. We thought we were getting a $22.50 savings when you took the fees off, but now I found out you collectively put those back into the bill, but it's not shown. And it would have been helpful if you would have brought last year's cost to this year's cost and show it, because there's nowhere as I can find in here 10% for water and 25% for sewer, unless you took 10% of the basic fee on top of 10% of the usage fee and 25% on the basic and 25% on the usage on the sewer, because a lot of people didn't know that we thought we were getting a savings of $22.50, but you just added that into the bill, which took my bill up over $65 increase for that. Another thing I like to say, you know, I think it would have been helpful that if you would have had your 5-year and 10-year plan, because I'm hearing on the street right now that you're talking next year of raising it again, because this raise here is still not enough to cover what you need. And if that's true, we're in trouble. Because with the taxes and everything else we've got, when is the city of Havelock going to grow? Nobody wants to come here with these rates. I mean, you've got a better understanding than I do of this, but we thought we were making money, and we've lost a lot of money. You just rolled it in and didn't even tell the people. We all thought we were getting a 10 and 25% increase. In reality, we got more than a 50% increase in some of these bills. So, thank you.
So I'll start at the end of that. We did not tell people. So let me just address that part, right? So to say we did not say what we were going to do, we talked about it at the public hearing. We talked about it at the listening session, designed specific. We had an entire water, sewer, utility bill section in that listening session where we explained that the capital reserve account was going into the flat rate. We explained all of that. So we did put it out. Did you see it? That's the question you're asking. No, you didn't see it. Well, you also weren't at the meeting or at the listening session, right? And so I don't know how else to put that information out, right? It's on our website. It's at a meeting. We had a public hearing that we do every year mandated by law. And then, you guys, I mean, so I know it's fun to like pick at the city a little bit and, you know, come up and be sarcastic and applaud for somebody who says you charge too much money. That's fun for me too, because I got to pay the damn water bill too, just like you do, right? But what is not fun is when other people are trying to hear what's happening and you want to have a sidebar conversation in the back and laugh about something instead of listen to the information, right? So I'll just ask you to be respectful of each other, okay? So yes, we did say it was going to be there, right? We did not come knock on your door and say this is going to become this. But we did at the public hearing. We had a special listening session here to go over that. I'm sorry you didn't know that. I am. I know the board feels the exact same way, right? But there was no...
This would be a good time to have the board come up there. Some people may not...
Clint, if it's your meeting, you could do that, man. I'll have them in a second. I'll come up in a second. That's a good point. Thank you. So basically, if you drop the bill, you are not going to have the money to operate, right? Last night we had a meeting where we went over the quick ratio and the cash flow ratio and all of that. And we are not operating at a level right now that is going to fund what needs to happen for our water department or the sewer department, right? We're going to be lucky to break even. Are you saying it's a foregone conclusion that a future board's going to raise rates? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because I can't say what a future board's going to do. But I can tell you this, we would all be naive to think that your water and sewer bill is not going to change ever again. Everything that we use to process water, including the gas in our pumps, the chemicals in the system, the sand in the filters, the carbon, is costing us more money today than it cost last year, just like everything else we buy, like groceries and all that. So we've been doing a CPI for like a decade, right? So your bill has gone up by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, every year for the last decade or more, right? That's probably going to happen next year as well, because if you don't, you're not going to buy as many chemicals to treat the water. You're not going to buy as many pumps to fix the sewer, right? So that has to happen. What we're exploring now, and I think what George was getting at, was we just had these folks come in, third party, and look at rate structure, look at how we do what we do, look at our quick ratio, look at our cash on hand as a business analysis, and say, what can you do about rates, and what does that number have to be, and then how can you get there over time instead of doing it all at once? So that's the path the board's going to take. That George word on the street that he's heard is the board is going to be exploring that between now and the next budget cycle. Does that mean your stuff's going to go up? I don't know. Does that mean it's going to go down? Heck no. No. Because there is no math that reduces what we charge for water and sewer and gets the job done for water and sewer. There is no math that does that. And Clint had a good point, so I did not introduce him at the beginning, and that is my bad. Tyrone, is one of our commissioners right here, Commissioner Canty. Commissioner Core is in the back there. Commissioner Brenda Wilson and Danny Walsh are right here. They just raised their hands. And Commissioner Karen Lewis is right here. If you did not know your commissioners, I apologize. I should have done that at the beginning when I had that organizational slide up, and I slipped right over it. That is your commissioners. Come on up. Or are you guys in line? I don't want to. Okay, come on up. You're in line, Pastor Dodd.
The center of attention.
Yes, ma'am. What? About showing it on the bill. If we broke it back out as a capital reserve fee, then the board would just have to change that for next year and say, okay, now it's a capital reserve fee again. And it's not though anymore. It used to be a capital reserve fee that went directly into an account that was only for capital work. It's not anymore. Now it is in the usage fee. Everybody pays it, and the board decides how that money gets spent. If it's fixing a water line or on operations, it's no longer going directly into that account. So delineating it, that's not what it would be. If we put that on there, that's not what it is anymore.
Well, could you label it? Would there be a label that you could give it so people would understand what it's going for or towards, itemized? I'm just trying to think of a way to be transparent for all the people so that they can actually see on their bill what it is. That's the only thing. Just transparency is, I think, all people are really asking for.
So I understand that. The transparent answer is it doesn't exist anymore. Like, there's nothing to put on there. It is a usage fee that goes to operations. And the only way to be more transparent would be if we just put the entire, which is on the website, we put the entire water and sewer budget up there, and you can see exactly what we spend money. How much money goes to maintenance, how much money goes to overhead, how much money is getting spent at the plant, how much we spend on chemicals. That is all on the website, very clearly articulated by line item, the same way that the board sees it. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Two quick, I think, questions. Can you refresh my memory on how you came to the flat rate fee for the sewer? Because I can't remember how you explained that. And the other part is, when you talk about having a contract with the trash pickup and so on, if they're out of if for whatever reason, if there's a contract that says they're gonna pick up on a Monday and through, regardless of its weather, you can't stop that, but if failure on their part to meet the requirements of the contract, is there not some sort of penalty that they're responsible for? I know that if I'm in breach of contract with my credit card company, yeah, I'm gonna get an extra penalty on my next bill. That's my question.
Okay, so the second question first is, the contract is more complicated than that, so they do have days they're supposed to pick up, and we agree on that, but there are parameters within that, that they could be there within these days and how many times they can miss. We have had a very good contract for going on almost 15, 16 years now that we renegotiate every few years. That is why your rates stay so low. We could, in the next contract negotiation, put some sort of penalty in. If you don't get there by this day, we're going to charge you for that. That is not in the current contract, though. And your first question, how do you get to the stormwater flat fee? It's a mathematical calculation based on the water one. So you create the water base fee, and then we mathematically create the sewer one. And I don't know the algebra for that off the top of my head. Yes, sir.
Hello. So I run one of the businesses here in Havelock, and so I know that when we built the building 12 years ago, the city of Havelock required us to build a stormwater next to our building, and any new businesses, that was $20,000, I think. So is that still an order where new businesses have to build that, and then we still have to pay a stormwater fee as well? Because I mean, my bill has jumped up from $94 in November to $250 last month.
Because of your impervious surface on your building, probably, right? Your stormwater fee.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, I'm paying at least $30 to $50, I think, extra a month for stormwater fee, and so yeah. I mean, just curious how that plays into effect, that I had to spend $20,000 extra dollars that wasn't part of our original budget because the city of Havelock required it, but then years later, now I'm having to pay a stormwater fee that it's great Walmart and all those other big businesses get charged those fees, but the building's big. I have a lot of area, and I'm getting charged a lot, even though I already kind of did what the city asked me to do 12 years ago.
That's a great question. So I would only change one thing. We don't require the BMP, the stormwater pond stuff. That is a state requirement. We just enforce it. So the state of North Carolina requires if you disturb a certain amount of impervious surface that you have to do a best practice, and it could be a stormwater pond. It could be like Cookout did it underground instead of on surface level. And that's required by the state, not by us. Our planning and inspections department is required to enforce that law because it's their law. So yes, if a new business comes in and they disturb a certain amount of pervious and make it impervious, they may have to still put a pond in, and they would be a part of our stormwater system too. Yes, sir. So two separate things. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, citizens of Havelock. My name is Alexander Simpson. I live over off of Bryan Street. Several things. Actually, I met with Stephen Astor for the recycling program and the trash program. And while it's handled by the county, the thing is, I don't like the bins either. I don't like having to pay to do somebody else's job. I don't like doing it either. But when it comes into what is valuable and what they're able to sell, that's where that's where it comes from. You know, it was, you know, I came in here with a good idea, and then me and the mayor have talked and collaborated and probably see if we can find solutions for that. Secondly, I would like to bring up Senate Bill 515, General Assembly in North Carolina, session 2023. It's called the Affordable Sewer and Water Act. It is a bill to be entitled, and mind you, I am not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just reading this bill. It is an act to lengthen the time for which the Utilities Commission may suspend proposed rates of a public utility and water sewer investment plan implementation pending investigation to require local government water and sewer service providers to determine if the sale of water or sewer system is in the public interest, and to limit water and sewer surcharges for customers outside the jurisdictional boundaries of the unit of local government providing the water service. So from what I'm reading as a general layperson, I'm just retired military. That means pretty much, it sounds like the mayor and the commission, they can say, you know what, we got a real problem here. We're just going to set up a utilities dictatorship, and you're going to pay what we say you're going to pay. The commissioners and the mayor work tirelessly to try and bring the values down. And I moved here from Alaska. You want to talk about a high water bill? I can show you a high water bill. I know it's easy to get angry. It's easy, like, I'm not happy paying it either. You think I'm thrilled to pay more money? No. But at the same time, they're taking the time to sit there and show us what it is. And having worked previously in a public government setting, I understand the frustration it can be. And I understand the frustration you guys can have too, you know, because it's just like, I got to pay more money, more. When is it ever enough? But they can't hear me? Oh, I apologize. I know it's easy to you know, complain and say, you know, why is it? Trust me, I don't like paying it either. But it is in the state constitution, from what I am reading. If it's this big of an issue, then they can take full run of it, and we may not like what comes out of that. I think we should be pretty thankful of the time and energy they put into, and to try to keep us paying as least as possible. The one thing about Slocum Trail, though, if sewage is getting into there, could we ask for EPA funds or something?
Likely. So I'll take that to jump off on two things. One, grants and opportunities for our system. And some of y'all have seen, like, we used ARPA for AMI. There are ways to apply for cleanup. That might not be us, though. The county typically handles stuff within the creek, and we haven't done that. And I don't know what cleanup would even look like. A lot of it kind of sound rivers, you know, it quote unquote fixes itself when the water changes and people aren't at home. I don't really know about that. But I do know for grants and opportunities for us, we do pursue those aggressively. The state of North Carolina, because there is the problem that we have with aged infrastructure is not uncommon. It's actually very common across the state of North Carolina. The state of North Carolina has put a lot of money into some grant opportunities this year for infrastructure, and we have been pursuing those and will be pursuing those. Those don't cover operations, but when you've got a line that's broken or you've got a major sinkhole, we can get funds to do that. We also advocate heavily in Washington, D.C., and We've got money right now from our senators and congressmen that we're using on sewer line construction engineering as we speak. So we do take those options whenever we can, but they don't cover operations. And to add one more piece, yes, the state is locking down more and more and more what municipalities can get away with, because municipalities historically, and any of you who've been to a listening session for the last year and a half as we've been doing them, at almost every one we talk about water and sewer at the end because someone's going to ask about it, and I've said every time, water and sewer in the entire state and the entire country, we have all been paying way too low for a long time. They are artificially deflated bills. And that is proving to be true across the entire state of North Carolina, and everybody's systems are failing. Right? And so the question is, what do you do? The local government commission, which is who handles our budgetary stuff, if we do not budget at a 1-to-1 ratio, we're not performing at the level we're supposed to perform, the state of North Carolina local government commission comes in and takes over your utility. When they come in and take over your utility, you now no longer have any say at all in your rates, your construction. You don't have any concern in what repairs are going to be done, and we have no say at all in future growth. They take the system over, they decide what gets charged, 100%. They can do that to our tax rate as well. You don't charge enough taxes to cover your bills, they can come in and take over your budget. If you don't believe that's true, there's cities right now in North Carolina that are in that scenario. The LGC has taken over their utility, or they've taken over their actual budget. They have the authority and they will do it. We have to do an audit every year. We have to submit all that stuff to the state. They have to accept it and approve it. So it is true, if you underfund your system exorbitantly, the LGC will come in as that Bill said, and just take over your system, at which point we would have zero authority in trying to maintain those rates. And I'll tell you what they're going to do. FYI, they don't go down. They are going to do a mathematical calculation on the quick ratio and your cash on hand, and they're going to, and your operating ratio, and they're going to say, this is what you have to charge, and your bill will go to that the next day. They don't say we're going to slow it down over 6 years. They don't say let's have some concern. That's what they do. And to add one more thing, a lot of people talk about, we'll just sell it to somebody, bring in a third-party vendor. There are third-party vendors that will come buy your water and sewer system, and they'll take over running it. It's happened to us 1 county away. It's happened 3 or 4 counties away. We've looked at their water bills and sewer bills. All of them at least doubled, if not tripled, the first month that the company took over, because that's what they do. They work for a profit. So we are supposed to work to break even as an enterprise fund. We don't even break even. Right? If we operated at even, our bills would be higher. If we operated for profit to pay a CEO and a board, then your bill really goes high, and we lose all ability to negotiate. And so even the third-party folks that were here talking to us yesterday, we asked them that question. At what point does a municipality say, I just want out of my system, I'm going to sell it to somebody else? He said, you're here, that's down here. That's down at the bottom where you just give up, right? Because we will have no control, and your bills just go through the roof, and you'd be trying to talk to a corporation, not your board. So thank you for bringing that up. Allowed me to cover that.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and I will like to add, he is very approachable. Even yesterday, I couldn't find care for my little girl. The person who was supposed to was not feeling too well, and I brought her in with me, and we sat down and we talked. So if anybody's more approachable, come in with your little 2-year-old.
I'm probably at the same mentality as a 2-year-old. That's probably why it worked out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I come over here because I don't know where this is going to be ended. 16 years ago, I paid $65 on water. I live by myself. Today and day, I pay double. I went to pay my electric bill the other day, and I was talking to them about the way that you guys are working, and they disagree. They don't agree. They said that you people, you have no control, okay? And you people, you're hurting the community, you know? This, myself, I call this is an abuse, and this is a crime, what you guys are doing. You're going to push the community to move out of the Havelock, and this is not right. Think about that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, it's never easy being the tip of the spear. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. It is never easy being the tip of the spear, so thank you. I'm one of the few, I think you said 69, who do not get water from you, but from the county. Can you help me understand, when I get my county water bill, it shows the 2 numbers. But then I get my city bill and the numbers don't match. Few times they've been rounded down, surprisingly. Most often it's rounded up. So on one bill, for instance, it said I used, say, 2,000 whatever gallons. But the city bill billed me for about 50, 60 gallons more than what my county bill. So for those of us who get that, can you help me understand how do you get the numbers from the county, and why do those numbers not match on the city bill for sewer?
So that might be one, Pastor Dodd, where we might want you to bring it in so they can sit down and look at it and explain that specifically. I can tell you how I know the system works, which is the county reads the meter. They give us the meter, the water usage number, and then we just do math to calculate sewage. Do you know why the number would be different?
So it is a rounding issue. We don't pull. I might be too short for that. We do get a file from them, and it's possible we do choose to round a different way. But because of how they bill and it comes, we actually bill 2 months behind from their number. So depending on what it is, you're looking at a bill from them that is not the same time period for us on how we have to bill. They have to bill you first, then they have to send us the file, and then we have to bill you. So that could be part of your issue why you're seeing different numbers.
So that's why I think you should come in and let them look at it, and we should make sure that we're doing that part right, because that is a good point. We're 2 months behind. So whatever you're paying sewer on was actually your water 2 months prior to that. And so if you're using the same one, the number wouldn't match anyway.
But the numbers, like this last month, the numbers were the same. So if it's 2 months behind, then how do the numbers stay the same?
I don't know. I would say we need to see it.
All right, I'll bring it in. Thank you.
And actually, I know she's going to go look at it immediately as soon as she gets in the office tomorrow, because I know how Tiffany is, so she's going to look into that. But I would come in, and Tiffany can look at that specifically and explain exactly what's going on with your bill. And there are a few other of you in here that I know live in that area. I saw at least one other face that I know does that. So if you have the exact same scenario, you should, if you have time, still come in and we'll print. You don't have to bring your bill. We've got it. I mean, you don't have to bring your bill. Just swing by, call up the City Hall to customer service, and we can go over your stuff with you specifically and look at yours exactly. Because, I mean, computers make mistakes and so do people, right? And we are more computer heavy now, which means there's less human error. I said that earlier, right? There's less human error. But it doesn't mean computers, they're programmed by humans, right? So if there is an anomaly in the rounding that is a problem, that's the only way we're going to find out. Yes, sir.
Mayor and Commissioners, again, thank you for having this listening session tonight. Please excuse my voice, I'm having some issues. So 7 years ago, when I was elected to the position of commissioner, which I enjoyed serving, one of the first meetings I had was with the public service director, and he showed me a map of our city. And you did a great job covering this, but I just want to hit some highlights that really impressed me during my time on the board that might help others, if I may, Mr. Mayor. But it showed the age of the infrastructure we have in the city, and over where I live on Miller, this infrastructure is pre-city, actually. It's back in the early 50s, late 40s, and to the best of my knowledge, most of the infrastructure in this city is at least 20, 30 years old. And most of it had, as it's mentioned earlier, kind of kicked down the road of not being fixed. But I remember when I was on the board around that time, we made a change in the way we were fixing things, because when a pipe would break, we would go fix the pipe, but then it would break 5 feet down, and then we'd have to go fix it again. So we started saying, okay, when it breaks, we need to go from, if it's a sewer line, manhole to manhole, which initially costs more, but it's truthfully saved probably millions of dollars, I think you'd agree, in repair costs. And so every time something breaks, because we're trying to do a repair that's not going to just break again in 2 weeks, it is costing a whole lot more. And the numbers are quite staggering when you look at what these repairs cost. And I don't remember some of the numbers. The mayor can share some of the new ones, because understand the government as well as us are feeling the results of inflation. Again, some of that started while I was still on the board, and I remember, things that we were bidding before all of a sudden costing 20, 30% more, it seemed, because inflation was skyrocketing. And while we kind of joke about things at government pace and government way of doing things, understand the city's hands are tied because by general statute, we have to accept the lowest bid on things. And that doesn't always equate to maybe the best bid, okay? But it is the way the system is designed. And so, again, I'm not trying to belabor all this. The mayor did a good job, but I just wanted to take a few moments to explain some of this. Because while none of us like the fact that things are increasing, our infrastructure is extremely important. And so really my question kind of goes more to the citizens, us as citizens, because as the mayor said, our water bill and sewer bill, because those are enterprise funds, and to be run like a business, which, by the way, those are, and so is this building, although there is some from the general fund that goes to help cover this building, and how that still works, I don't fully understand why that was exempted for the, pulling it from the general fund, but the truth still is these are enterprise funds, and they gotta be self-funding. So then when we look at our taxes, that is all the other services we have. And I don't think any of us want to cut our police service, fire service, some of the major services we have. We have a lot of nice things here in Havelock. And I'm not saying we should go get rid of all the nice things. But the truth is every service we ask the government to provide costs money. So if we want the government to legitimately, and this is something I used to argue on the meetings, and the mayor would confirm with this, is if we are going to cut, then it means we're going to have to look at what services can be cut. And there are some things Havelock does that are redundant services. There's other things that are nice to have but not necessarily need to have. And so if we really want to see our taxes cut as citizens, then I think we need to ask ourselves the hard question, and then we need to approach our commissioners with it. What services that are currently provided are we willing to do without? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Mayor, City Commissioners, beloved friends and neighbors. I am relatively new to Havelock. I just moved here about a year ago. And thank you. And I recently bought property, so I'm going to be here a while. That is the plan. And I have other family members that live here as well. And one thing that I would like to ask to see if it's possible is when there is such a rate jump. For example, no additional usage, and the bill is $100 more, and it is a family that is already on a tight budget. They don't get any kind of heads up, hey, this bill is going to be increasing for XYZ reason. They don't know that they're going to need to budget for this. And yet, if they don't pay the bill when it's due, they're going to lose their services and also have a reconnect fee. I don't know if it might be a possibility for consideration that in an instance like this, because, for example, on the Facebook page, people are saying, why did my bill jump so much? And it's from various people from all over the community. I've read it. Could there not be some type of, at least, investigation to see if customers could be provided a heads up, hey, your bill is going to be increasing? I pay my bill online every month. I don't see why there couldn't be some interactive, or at least an investigation to see if some interactive like messaging could be sent out. 2 months ago, it was $100 more, no additional usage. This past bill was still $75 more, no additional usage. So when someone is already operating on a very tight budget, it's really, really hard to make ends meet. And if they have some way of knowing beforehand, okay, I know that I'm going to have to try to rob Peter to pay Paul, or squeeze this a little bit more to make it stretch a little bit further. We're all living under a budget with this not so great economy right now. So I'd like to see if that might be a consideration, that some kind of communication could be developed or sent out, that type of thing. And also, This is the first time I've ever had a chance to come to one of these. Please keep in mind that some of us work really weird schedules. I work from home, and I was working until 10 o'clock every night until just recently. So I apologize if I'm not up on things, but keep in mind that there are those of other people like me that I appreciate you trying to put out the information, but it still may be difficult for some of us to get it. But thank you for allowing me to speak.
Absolutely, thank you. Communication is a constant challenge, and we do fully understand that a lot of folks can't come to meetings. I also understand a lot of you folks don't want to come to a freaking meeting. I also understand that. Like, that's a reality too. Unless it's the subject that you're actually interested in, right? I mean, today is proof of that. I mean, 90% of you I haven't seen at a meeting probably ever. And you're here tonight because this is important to you, and I get that. And the other meetings aren't. I understand. We try to use social media to do that. We use public hearings. We use listening sessions. At one point, we do have this phone call system that we can use right now. Like, if you're in a neighborhood that you have a water outage that's going to be a problem, or a boil advisory because a contractor drilled through our line. If you live in Tucker Creek, you lived through that during the construction a couple years ago. And we can call you. We tried that as an all hands, as an option for communication, to your point, to just send everybody a message about the water and sewer system. The way the system we pay for was built, they had to roll it out in groups, and people were getting the call at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that was a disaster. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. It was a freaking disaster when my 78-year-old uncle's calling me like, dude, why'd you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning to tell me that my water line might be off tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, that was, we didn't know that's what would happen. We have not even tried to use that system for anything bigger than like a neighborhood sense, just because it didn't work. It doesn't mean we can't find a different system that would be an auto dial to your address that gives you, or to your phone, or an auto email. And the other thing is, we don't bill ourselves. We use a third-party bill, and a lot of people will say, why don't you just put it in my bill? We use a third-party billing company. We give them the data, they print it, they mail. It's way cheaper for them to do it than for us to have a mail division at the city of Havelock. We only are allowed so many flyers a year. One of those is always the water quality report that you get. You get a water quality report every year, whether you read it or round file it, you get it every year. And then we can do one or more, we can do a couple other flyers periodically, and maybe we need to prioritize that. Maybe the board can talk about whether they prioritize that as being something, hey, your bill, you may see a change next month. Yes, ma'am? Maybe something like a texting system? So that's what our system is. It's a text, call, or email. You could give us, and if you're not registered, by the way, I should plug right now, if you all have a water meter in your yard, you should make sure your information is updated at customer service, because we will still use it in an emergency or in a small group way. Ours will text you, it will call you, or it will email, or all of that, whatever you want. It'll do all three to you if that's what you prefer, as long as your information is accurate. But whatever we're using just doesn't work for too large of a group because they roll it, and that was a problem. So unless we get that under control, and I'm not saying that we can't, we just have not yet. I would say it hasn't been a priority that we've done anything about yet, amidst everything else. There's also a little section of your bill in the corner. Some of you probably don't even look at your bill. If you're like me and you pay it online, you throw it away as soon as you get it, or you shred it, and you look at it online. But in the bottom corner, there's like a little message section where we can send you a message that might say something like, hey, your next bill might change because you're going into a new fiscal year. We don't do that very often, because what we always get is we never see that. That's what people always say, well, that's not useful. Communication is a challenge, and I'm not trying to downplay that. We do music and movies in the park, and it's amazing. We've been doing it for 3 years. How many people will say, what, you do free movies in the park? You do free music in the park? I'm like, man, we put it on our electronic sign. We put it on Facebook. We put it on the website. We tell people when we see them in Food Line, and it still doesn't always work. It doesn't mean we're not trying to do better. We've talked about a newsletter. And what that would look like, you know, what kind of effort that would coming out of the PI office to give you a newsletter with kind of pertinent information like that, maybe an electronic one once a quarter that had some information. We're working through ideas right now on what that could look like. And we've talked to a couple of other municipalities that already do that, and kind of how it works for them and what their citizens think about it, and if it's effective or if it's just getting round filed and nobody knows about it either. Yes, ma'am.
First, I want to thank you for having another listening session. I've been to pretty much every one of them. They're always so informative, and I got to give you credit for knowing every single thing that you were talking about without having to ask much of your water department. And it's nice to see as many people here. I just wish that as many people would come to the meetings, the commissioners' meetings, because they would have a lot more information on everything that the Board of Commissioners do. That said, maybe one of the next listening sessions could be a breakdown of what the city has to report to or adhere to state and federal requirements when it comes to the water and sewer. That might make it a little easier to understand what constrictions you have with what you can do.
A whole listening session on what's not in our control. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That might be
But-
long.
Yeah, but thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hi. So the listening sessions, I know a lot of people don't come, and I'm in the, comment section. So just to dispel misinformation or disinformation or whatever. So you said that the new water meter system is paid for already?
Yes, ma'am.
Because a lot of the perception is we are now paying for this system, and that's why the bill went up.
I'm glad you said that because you're right. I've heard that rumor. No, it is all paid for. We paid for it all initially with city funds, and then we finished it with the ARPA money that we got from the federal government. Your bill is not paying for that. Now, if we're running the system right, not to get too deep in the weeds, then our operational money should be budgeting for future capital expenses, meaning in 7 years when we got to buy new meters, we should have enough money to do that.
Okay.
But no, we are not paying for that system in your water bill.
So some of the increases are going towards replacing the meters in the future?
Well, they'll go towards future capital outlay. That hasn't been defined yet that it's meters. It'll also be for broken pipes or, valves that go bad, things like that.
So a summary is that the future projects is part of the raise, and the other part of the raise is just inflation to cover costs of, is that correct?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair way to say it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I appreciate the listening session, and I'll put it in the comment section when I go online.
Thank you. Yes, sir. No worries. You got a captive audience.
That's right. First of all, I'm going to come up and shake your hand, though, because I've never really met you. I'd like to actually thank people for not chucking tomatoes at you as well. Because from looking at the Facebook stuff, which I'm sure you do, I thought there was going to be crates of tomatoes outside. I wanted to speak on behalf of a lady. She wasn't able to make it here. Some things I'm going to bring up, some things I'm not, because you got to answer them, so I'm not going to repeat them. But this person happens to be a single parent, single income. I know it's few and far between here. She works and lives here. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry. She was complaining about the trash pickup, but of course you stated that you don't always have, be it weather, vehicles breaks because they drive Fords, and we know how reliable those are. Yep. So her really big thing was just that in the past, the bill alone has gone up 3 or more times significantly. I know you said that there was a letter that went out in the mail. I do know for myself personally, my bill never makes it in the mail anymore. I don't know. I know you said that you went through a third party. You might want to maybe see if maybe they're just forgetting to send out the mail because someone from the city told me that the notice of increase went out in the mail with the bill. It's just never made it to my house. I'm not too much of a complaint, but there's really complaining because they're also, as one lady said, they're on a tight budget. And that was really something that I wanted to bring in, because I don't know how much you pay attention to our more struggling families. I've been blessed that I'm not one of them, but excuse me, I support them through baby stuff, through diapers, formula, stuff of that sort. And even though you raise up, I think my bill went up $30. it doesn't affect me directly. But when it goes up for this lady who, she's not a lady that I've helped before, but there are the ladies that I have, the men that I have, when their bill goes up $30, that's $30 that they can't spend on their kid. That's now $60 I have to spend for them. Because it's $30 I don't have, $30 they don't have. It's $30 more I have to spend for them, be it whatever it is. And I really just wanted to make that known. Because I don't know if you noticed or not, I've heard that sometimes Havelock maybe inadvertently incorporates FRC East into the how much Havelock makes per year on that thing. And I know if you work for the government, you live like kings. I like work at FRC. I know the guys that sit at chairs make buku dollars, so I do know sometimes, I don't know if it always gets clumped in there. I know most of FRC doesn't live there, but I really just wanted to express on the less fortunate, I'd say, folks that rely on us, and even the pregnancy center and folks like that, where it makes it difficult for us to support them, to support those families, even in the small amounts that compounds a lot. That was really about it. So thank you, sir.
Thanks, Roy. And just to paint a picture of what that does look like when we go through doing our rate stuff, it is, and a couple people in this room have been there, it's workshop after workshop after workshop. And the things that we toil over are not the stuff like, you know, how many parks you're going to have, right? What you agonize over for days is what is the rate going to do to your citizen, whether it's the tax rate or the water or the sewer or the stormwater. I mean, that is what we spend the vast bulk of the time as commissioners deliberating, because we all pay the bill too. And I like to remind people that, because I don't know if somehow people think we get to get out of it or get a free utility bill because we are volunteering with the city. That is not the case. We pay it as well. And we do think a lot about that. We understand our demographics, 60% of our community are renters. We understand that. And we understand that a lot of people live in our community are in the service industry. They're working at tables. They're working at Walmart. They're the person that you bought breakfast from at Big Rock or Ziggy's when you went there last week. And we understand that, you know, their income is not the same as the engineer who works on the base, and we get that. And so this board does spend a lot of time deliberating that. And truthfully, and that is why you end up in a situation where you have not funded rates the way you want to over a long period of time, because every board does that. And then the boards say, that can go one more year. We can kick that down the road again. We're not going to raise rates. And there's also reality of I don't want any of you to think for a second that when we sit at a table and we say we're even going to raise rates by $1, that we don't know that 1,000 of you are going to lose your minds the next day, right? Because believe it or not, we've already lost our minds in 3 meetings about it. It's not like we're immune to that and we don't think you deserve for us to do a good job in deliberating those numbers, right? We've already tussled with that. And we know that it's going to be upsetting no matter what you change it to. We know that. And so we're trying to do the best you can to balance the operations you have to provide with the number of dollars that you're bringing in without impacting your citizens too much. That really was like a, not an exaggeration, multi-year conversation about the stormwater fee. Multi-year, to decide that the $4 at your house every month was cheaper than if we raised your tax rate, and that was the way we should go. The least impact on that family that is sitting at their house paying that bill and is a single family, that's the least impact we could have done to make that happen. And we do spend a lot of time thinking about that. It may not seem like it, but we do. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Going to the debate.
Oh, she's going to watch TV. Okay, I will be happy to continue to take questions. Also, we have our staff here, and if you have a question for staff or me afterwards, because you don't like to stand in front of a mic, I also get that. Or if you brought your water bill and you don't like it and you want to just talk about it, we can do that a little bit now. We can set up a date to do it there at City Hall and have all the data in front of us. I am going to dispel one Facebook rumor. I mean, even though half the crowd is left, I'm going to go ahead and dispel it. If you want to know what the mayor gets paid, And you guys, and I'll be honest, I'm not on Facebook. And if any of you are on Facebook, you probably know I'm not on Facebook. I don't see the comments. Staff will tell me, or my wife sometimes will get upset and she'll tell me. And yeah, bullies, keyboard warriors, man. I'll tell you this. I get paid, I'll tell you exactly what I get paid. It's public record. The mayor of Havelock gets paid $12,000 a year. I get paid quarterly, and they take taxes out of the $12,000. That's what I get paid. I guarantee I'm the lowest paid person in the room. The commissioners, the commissioners get paid about 10-ish a year to be a commissioner. 8. So that's what we get paid. Yes, sir.
Hey, so I'm trying to find, you keep saying that this is public record, that it's available on the internet, and I'm looking at the budget ordinance and the comprehensive annual financial report, and I'm either overlooking it or I'm still not looking in the right place, but how do I find that information on the website?
It should be in that.
Sorry, so I've downloaded the PDFs there, but so.
It's in that
like
budget
in
one.
here. Okay.
And they may have to actually show you where it is on the website because I don't use the website. I mean, y'all that know me know I'm not that guy. I'm not on the computer. I'm not on an iPad.
It sounds like he's in the right spot. It's just a very large document.
So it sounds like you're in the right spot. It's just a very large document, and we can happy to go through it with you. The audit on there is not what you want. Now, you can read the audit. Don't take that the wrong way. Please read the audit. But the audit does not show what we do. It shows what the results are from past years and future years and where you're trending in your fund balances and stuff. But that actual document that is our budget ordinance, it's in the budget ordinance. But that ordinance is that thick.
Well, the budget ordinance that's published on there is actually only 5 pages.
That should be a problem because the whole thing should be on there.
The budget ordinance goes down and breaks down by department, so it gives the dollar amounts for each department. The actual audit then takes so the budget ordinance gives the dollar amounts for the current year that's to be spent. The audit takes into everything that happens during that year and breaks it down how it's spent throughout the year, basing it into like operations, capital, and what the actual breakdown was of the original figures.
If I keyword search salary, the word comes up twice, and it doesn't have anything to do with any particular person's salary.
So it's broken down in the audit by salaries and departments.
If you're asking about individual employee salaries, that you'll have to request because we don't publish it on our website by name, but it is a public record and you can submit that request.
And you would get it for the position.
For the position title.
Right. So
yeah, the salaries that are the the salaries that are exactly.
Right.
I understand. The salaries that are in there are listed by department, so they're not broken down, because it would be,
for example,
132 different positions.
If you found the police
broken down.
department page, it's going to say salary is $280,000. You would have to request, can I see what a sergeant makes, a lieutenant, captain? Okay. And if you make that request, we're happy to provide that information. But that is not in the ordinance that goes on the website.
All right.
Did that clear that up? Okay. Okay, good. We finally got to the right question. My bad. All right. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Can you speak to the rumors about Weyerhaeuser coming? Is that City of Havelock that they're going to be a part of? And can they help us with our water problems?
Okay. So she was still a little quiet on the mic. So did everybody hear that? She said the rumors about Weyerhaeuser coming with a development to eastern North Carolina. So we have, and I'll try not to belabor this, but the economic development, we did a whole listening session on this, is a big subject. But we have 2 opportunities for growth in Havelock. If you look at us, we're surrounded by a Marine Corps Air Station, we're surrounded by Croatan National Forest, and then we're surrounded by water on the other side. So we're very linear on the map, right? We have 2 places to grow. One is out by Stately Pines, one is out on the bypass, where the bypass is finishing now. Yes, Weyerhaeuser owns a tract out there called Craven 38 that they've been talking about plans for years on how they would develop that into residential housing, as well as some of more mixed use where you'll see like some commercial and things like that. They are in active conversations with the manager on what that looks like. We can't talk about that. That's all in, you can't say what you're not, it's things you're not allowed to say on NDAs, all that stuff. So we can't give you any specifics. But yes, it is public record. Weyerhaeuser owns that property. They do intend to develop it. What that'll look like and how fast is still part of the question. I can't say for sure they'll be in the city because who knows what will actually happen, but they do want water and sewer. If they want water and sewer, they have to annex into the city, or they're going to pay a 3x rate. Because, by the way, if you don't live in the city here and you want water sewer, you pay a higher rate. So they want that rate, and they're in property that doesn't necessarily perk for a sewer system or a septic system. So they will want to annex probably, and that's part of our conversation, what their development looks like, what we will accept, what kind of recreation they provide. One thing we didn't cover today on water and wastewater, any new person that joins the system that you guys are already a part of pays a system development fee to come online. And it's thousands of dollars, right? They don't just get to benefit from all the money you've invested in your system. When they arrive and they say, Weyerhaeuser comes and says, we want to build, I'll make up a number, 28,000 houses. It's not that number. It's way lower than that. So I'm just pick something hyperbolic. 28,000 houses, right? They're going to pay a system development fee for every single house. That will equate to a very large sum of money. That will be kind of a shot in the arm into our water and wastewater. So to ask that question even one step further, it is, how do you get out of the situation that you're currently in with your tax rate, your water, and your sewer, without continuing to put the burden on the back of a citizen? That's the next question, right? The answer is development, right? So we haven't had any major development in Havelock because there's nowhere to develop in Havelock in city limits. And so we've seen like Patriot Park, you get 12, 15 houses at a time, where our neighbors that have massive amounts of land because they don't have the National Forest, water, and the Cherry Point Marine Corps Air Station are putting in 300 and 400 units of new tax revenue that's coming online. If you look at our tax revenue base, it's pretty much flat with a little bit of a rise for the last 5 years because we don't have new development. When we do, it's a Starbucks. That's great. That gave us tax rate. That does not solve our problem, guys. $4,000 more a year is a rounding error in a $27 million budget. That's a rounding error, right? So you really, that's the solution. If Weyerhaeuser develops Craven 38, there's another developer that wants to develop the section at Stately Pines. They develop that area. You bring in new homes. You bring in some new commercial. If they're annexed in the city, you see that tax base increase. That is new money to us. You see the wastewater and the water system development fees. That is new money to us to invest in our system. We still have to provide services to them, so it's not free, right? And that means we have to grow our service to some degree. And whether or not that pays out over time, I think if you got 4 engineers in here, they'd all give you a different answer on that ROI. But the reality is, our rates for everything in the city can only go up if we don't get new players. Same thing if you own a business. I've been a small businessman my whole life. If you have a business, you sell to the same 5 people for the same price for your whole life, you make the exact same amount of money. If you want more, you either got to charge more or get new people in your business door, right? I mean, that's the simple math. That's the boat that the city of Havelock is in. We don't have a lot of new people coming in that is additional revenue. So those developments will be key. That was a long answer to your question. We did a whole listening session on the economic development piece and kind of showed maps and talked about what that would look like and kind of where it is. Weyerhaeuser's not going to pull the trigger until the bypass is done, right? I mean, they got to have the road done before they can really do their thing. But they've been talking to the manager about this. We've been talking to them for years. They've really sped that up in the last 12 months.
Hey, forgive me for saying, but using new developers to make your current investors whole kind of sounds like the nature of a Ponzi scheme.
I know, right? Yeah, absolutely. And
there has to be some answer other than waiting on new people. Like, it seems like the money that's getting spent, if you're spending $500,000 to have people net turds, it might be throwing good money after bad.
Absolutely. And so that is exactly what we talked about last night, which was being, to your point, being reactive in this case, our wastewater system. Being reactive is infinitely more expensive than being proactive. And I'm not blaming past boards or this board, so please don't take it this way. But boards have just kicked that can down the road, and that's not just us. They told us last night, this is every municipality in all of eastern North Carolina, and most of the state of North Carolina have done the same thing. We've deferred the maintenance. And now we're reacting. So, for example, that right there, you spill because you have a piece of your sewer system that fails, right? Or Another example, now we're replacing an entire line that we did no maintenance on for literally 45, 50 years, that the one that goes by the Ford place. That was supposed to be $3.2 million initially. It's going to cost us $6 million when it's done based on inflation and the things they found in the ground that changed the contract. It's infinitely more expensive to be reactive. This board, I believe, has been very aggressive at trying to be proactive, and that's why we've spent so much money out of that reserve account for sewer, is because when we find a problem, we actually spend the money to fix it. And in the past, that wasn't always the case. That's not casting blame. I'm just saying that wasn't always the case. You found a problem. Literally, we dig up problems where it's felt paper rolled over the pipe with some tar, and they walked away from it, and 8 years later, it's blowing out. 10 years later, it's blowing out because that was all they were willing to do, right? And so you're right. It is kind of sort of a Ponzi scheme. And unfortunately, I think every municipality and county is calling it. That's not an excuse. And I said that last night to the board. I actually said, we can't think about it as an excuse and be like, oh, everyone else has the same problem, so it's okay. It doesn't make it okay.
They all have the same problem with the lower water bill, though.
But I mean, we just put it up there. We don't have the highest water, wastewater, and utility bill. I mean, we don't have the lowest. We don't have the highest. And I do think we're stepping out in front. I do believe that this board, in making the choices they're making for the health of their water and wastewater system, are puffing their chest out with rate increases. For example, last year Newport's was like $12 less than it is right now. We did it first. We were like, no, we got to solve this problem. And now they've had to do it. And I think you're going to see across the whole state, everyone's going to be doing that. I think we're just on the front. I know that's not a good answer. Just, yes, sir. Still working on that, but potentially. His question was, is there a backflow preventer on your water system that citizens will have to put in themselves in the near future? We're kind of working that issue right now. That is a mandate, by the way. That is a state requirement that has come down to us, that every single water meter has to have a backflow preventer on that meter. It has to go on the citizen side of the meter, not our side, and that is so that citizens can't put things in the water system through our meter backwards. That is a mandate we have to follow. We're still trying to figure out exactly what it looks like and what the cost is, but yes, most municipalities and counties have water systems. It's been on the resident to actually put that in because it's on their side of the meter. We're not allowed to work on that side of the meter. We stop at the meter. Everything from there is yours. Yes, and they're all over the place, though, so I hate to even say them out loud. But they have to be put in by a licensed plumber, right? That's where the cost is. The part itself is not that expensive, but you have to pay a plumber to put it in. Or you could have your buddy who's a licensed plumber put it in and not charge you. That's on you, right? As long as but you have to document you used a plumber, right? And that's state law. That's not us, right? It has to be a licensed plumber that installs this part, right? And yeah, it could cost you $4,000. You know, if you got the wrong plumber, it could cost you $4,000. There's also a reporting mandate that the state is requiring where that information has to be inspected every year, and we have to be responsible as a city to cover that inspection, to keep the records that you have your backflow, and it works. It's supposed to be tested every year. That's not our choice. The state is pushing that on us. We now have to do that. We don't have an employee to do 5,900 records of backflow preventers, and whether or not you paid for your test this year and submitted it to the city so that we can be compliant. We don't have that employee today. So that's part of the conversation. How do you do that job? And what's it going to look like? So what are we doing? This is a kick the can down the road thing. Man, we're Heismaning this thing as hard as we can. We are not going to get out of compliance. When the state says, this is the date, if you don't have it, we're going to come take over your system, we're going to make sure we have a solution for that date. Don't get me wrong. We will not break a law, but until that date's clear, man, we're figuring out the problem. We're studying the problem. But it's a reality that could come, yes. Yes, sir, and then I'll be back to you.
I have a potential, me and Commissioner Walsh talked, and we saw a potential, at least Band-Aid for now. I'm retired Coast Guard. If you would like, I'm more than happy to go with you to the base. I know the CEO, we could talk to him about every time there's a sewage runoff, maybe getting some presence there. At this current moment on the Maple, the buoy tender that's there, when they were first manufactured, I remember they were equipped with what was called a spilled oil recovery system. and that spilled oil recovery system was meant for oil spills. Well, as it turns out, how they piped it through the boat every time they used it, they had to go into dry dock because they just sucked up a bunch of oil into their internal systems, their engines, stuff like that. Whereas a basic engine, you know, this isn't oil, this is human waste. Maybe the spilled oil recovery systems that are sitting in Conex boxes right now, those might be able to be put to good use, and it would be good PR on the Coast Guard as well.
Thank you.
Just an idea.
Absolutely. And there are solutions for, like, for example, the one at the sewer plant. There are solutions to make sure that doesn't make it to the creek. Putting a berm system up with drain blocks and, you know, automatic shut-off valves and all that, you could do that. It's millions of dollars. And don't believe we haven't explored it. We've already explored what does that cost and what would that look like so that never happens again. But it's millions of dollars that we have to pay for, so that's probably not going to happen, right? Yes, ma'am. Do we have a city employee that's a dedicated grant writer? No, ma'am. No. For grant writing, what we do is department heads kind of sort of handle it themselves. We do have a contracts writer. We also have a PIO who also does special projects and, you know, proof stuff. And we do have a grants manager now. And who knows if in the future that turns into some sort of hybrid. Right now, they're grants management only because we're managing like $20-some million worth of grants right now in the city, and that was almost impossible for our 3-person department in finance to handle. So we have a grants manager. We do not have a dedicated writer. Part of the reason we don't anymore is because you can also contract that very, very easily. If you're targeting a specific grant with a FEMA department or something, there are organizations out there now, you pay a percentage of what you get, and they will write the grant, and they have a much higher percentage rate. So we always have that option in our back pocket, too. So we don't have a grants writer on salary. What else? I'll stay here all night. Y'all know it. They all know I'll stay all night. I really will. And look, I know a lot of people have left, and people might think that we do this as a dog and pony show, but the reality is I do get excited when a lot of folks come here like tonight because I do feel like we get to get you some information. I know you might not like it. I don't like some of the information. Like, let's just be clear. I don't like it. Our commissioners don't like it, right? But I feel like if we can at least get you clear information, you could be mad at us for the right reason, not the wrong reason. And if you have a solution and you can say, hey, I really have this, you know, I was part of a municipal system in Georgia and they did this and wow, that's fantastic. We just found out last night that some people charge their rates not by gallon, but by what your usage is. We've never done that at the city of Havelock. That's going to be something we explore. And does that mean you pay less as a resident because the businesses are going to take up more of the burden? Maybe, but we won't know till we explore, and that's the only way we find out, right? So I actually do like when you guys come, even if you're mad, because that's just as good. Yes, ma'am. You could tell them exactly what I tell them. If they don't like it, they do not have to look at me. I show up to do what I show up and I do my job well, and my brain goes with me everywhere I go. What I'm wearing is irrelevant to that. So that's what I tell people. If people tell me they don't like the way I dress, I'm like, well, I don't like the way you dress. I mean, what are we going to do about it, right? I don't care. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. So, yeah, and that is a challenge to our drainage in general. We do share it with DOT, right? So a lot of it we do share. You're sitting right behind the man that needs that information because Patrick's the one who's managing all of that, and he could give you a lot better answer about what he saw out there when he was there, and he'll even come out and walk it with you if you want to. He loves to do that. Not sarcastic either.
On South Forest, we watched the water move pretty quickly. We were pretty impressed.
Good. South Forest should be working.
It was very high, but it never stopped flowing. Yeah. Oh, it's that one always stays full.
cleaning the
clearing
ditches.
it out, yeah. But we did notice it was moving at a pretty steady clip, but I had never seen it move that fast in a long time. It did, but it never went above.
That's good.
And that was a lot of rain. That was a lot of rain.
I'm going to jump back and say, you should probably say more like what my grandmama would say, which would be nicer, which is you shouldn't judge somebody by the way they look. All right, that's probably the nicer answer than mine was. Yes, sir.
All right. I'm upset about the bill too, but I'm okay with it because I understand rates have to go up. However, I've been in the city for 20 some odd years, whatever it is, but there's several years ago there was called a sewer improvement where y'all redid the station down on the other end of town. And what the board did back then, I really didn't go to the board meeting, so I apologize for that. I'm trying to be more involved in it. Is that they turned around and talked, they discussed within themselves, and they also brought the information to the citizens about the way they was going to increase the rates on it, but they did it gradually. They just didn't do it all at one time. So hopefully y'all put that in consideration if you decide to do that. Because I appreciate the last meeting you did in May, this meeting you had in May, when you stated about the increase in water rate and sewer rate. My only issue was about the reserve, but then I had to explain to my honey who watches the bills that it more or less went into your, what's that part? It's called the main water and sewer. Yeah, yeah. And so, and then she's showing to me about the tiers, now I got a better understanding about that. So you were correct. When I came to you, I said, well, how much my rate's gonna go up my bill? And you stated about $25. Yes, it did. And it rates anywhere between $25 to $30 according to how many when it's red and how many days in the month. That shows that, so that's understandable. So I appreciate that. But if it could be more information put out there, it'd be great. Thanks.
Well, thank you for saying that we were right in our prediction, because my bill was predicted to be $40 to $45 higher. My bill is $45 higher every month. And I know a lot of people have left, but I would also say if your bill is $400 a month, you have a freaking problem. Right? And you're not going to solve it by announcing that on Facebook. Come see us and we will help you solve the problem. Right? You're not going to, if your bill is that high, if your bill went up $100, and I know people said that for dramatic flair tonight, that's fine. If your bill went up $100, that is not our changes. You are using substantially more water than you were a year ago. If your bill went up $45 and you were in my tier at 5,000-ish, yeah, that's exactly right. If you're in the 3,000 group, your bill should have gone up 25 to 30 bucks. Yes, ma'am. Sure. I need to just do a rumor listening session. Go for it. I would love that.
And it might be true, every time that we get the sewage bill, it would get fined, the city gets fined a large amount of money, and that gets passed to us, and that's part of the rate.
That's one of my favorites. So the other part of that rumor is that it's cheaper for us to just pay the fine so we're not fixing our system. Yeah, that's crap. So here's how it works. We are in an SOC, which is an agreement with the state of North Carolina to fix our system the right way. We did that voluntarily because we were serious about getting our system right. And when DEQ comes down and looks at your system and says they don't know what to do either, that's a problem, right? When our own engineers were paying a crap ton of money who don't know how to solve your problem, that's a problem, right? So we entered an SOC. That did two things. It made us a partner with the state. The second thing it does that is beneficial to you guys is it limits what they can charge us for those actual penalties. So if we are not in an SOC and you have a spill, the number they could bill us is very, very, very high. I mean, we've had incidences where even under the protection, we're paying $10,000. But they can charge way more. They can charge tens of thousands for a single spill. Being in the SOC, or special order of consent is what that is, with the state of North Carolina, there's a blanket protection on there that if we spill while we're in that and we're improving our system, we're limited on what they can charge us for the spill. Now, it is limited. I think the newest one, we are limited only to the east end of town. It used to be the whole city, but a couple years ago when we renegotiated, they were like, no, just the east end where we have our problem. So it is true we pay a fee. The fee is incredibly small compared to the repairs that we're making, and we have negotiated with the state to make sure they're not overcharging us on fees, right? And then that does not mean that it's still cheaper to pay fees than it is to fix a system, so we're just not worried about the system. I love that rumor. That is absolutely 100% not true. We have spent I'm telling you, tens of millions of dollars in the last several years on our sewer system. Tens of millions of dollars. I mean, you got a $6 million project happening as we're, like, tomorrow morning. They're going to be out there on a $6 million project. That's one. So that is not true. That is not true. It is not true that we're increasing your rates to cover the fees for our stuff, which is what your question was, right? We pay the fees out of our retained earnings. So that's like a savings account, you could call that. Now, I mean, it depends on how deep in the weeds you want to go. Does that impact what you can do to fix stuff? Sure, because you have less savings. You have less savings, so it means you can do less work, but we're talking about $1,000 or $3,000 or $8,000, not, I don't remember what our last one was, but they're very, very small compared to what they could be. I know it's very complicated. I mean, it's, yes, ma'am. Oh, you're just waving by.
Is to educate. So I think this meeting was very beneficial because you gave the information, so each person has the option of taking the information, doing what they would like to do it. But in addition to that, as a public, we get to see the temperature of the community that came out. So it's a learning lesson across the board, which I already know that you guys are aware that it probably would not come across as favorable. But in the big picture, the goal is to try to solve the problems. So in solving the problems, everybody's not going to be happy. But we have to do what's best for the community and for the future. Because we do have several generations of people living in Havelock. So it's not just the elders, it's not just the millennials, it's not just the Gen Zs. We have various generations that we have to think about when we're making these decisions. So I think that you guys did a very good job in making sure that each generation that was represented, that chose to come, had the opportunity to learn. But in addition to that, there comes a point to where each one of us has to try to seek the information ourselves. So if you truly want to educate yourself and know what's going on with the city and your water and all the other functions of the city, you have to pick up the phone and call, send a text message, email. But thank you for your time. I'm going to get out of here.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Any other questions before I put the mic down? All right, those of you who are still here, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Be on the lookout for the next listening session. I don't know what the subject will be yet, but because we're kind of trying to figure, we're building that plane as we fly it now, because kind of react to the community. So what's that? Facebook rumors, man, I'll do that. That'd be a blast. We've talked about doing the Mayor's Minute. We've talked about doing the Mayor's Minute where we just kind of do Facebook rumors, and that's on Facebook, so you'd think they would see it, but I doubt that they would. I doubt they would. All right, y'all have a great night. Thank you. If you got anything you need to talk to me personally about, feel free. Oh, and I need a motion to adjourn. Tyrone? Motion and a second from Josh. All those in favor? All those opposed can stay.